Hello. Hi, City of Berkeley. We're excited to share a proposal for LiftLocal Berkeley. Visualize the bustling atmosphere as you walk down our downtown Berkeley. Berkeley is home to thousands of small businesses, yet only a small proportion of those are registered as city vendors, and an even smaller proportion regularly bid and compete for city contracts, despite offering the exact services that our city needs. Right now, if a small Berkeley business wanted to compete for a contract on their own, realistically, they probably couldn't. Not because they lack talent or commitment, but because competing requires a large bandwidth that few small, diverse, and women-owned providers can sustain individually. Even when many small businesses are eligible, many never even hear about it. This means missed opportunities for both those businesses and for our local economy. So the question becomes, how do we level the playing field for smaller and more diverse businesses to be contracted? To understand the current system, we begin by speaking with the city's finance department. We learned that Berkeley already tracks vendor participation, offers local bid preference, and conducts some outreach, so the issue isn't a lack of policy intent. We then spoke with key stakeholders, small and diverse owned businesses, and groups like the Berkeley Chamber and Downtown Berkeley Association. We found that small businesses face friction at every step of the way. Many never make it past awareness, while others stall during the bidding process due to lack of confidence and support. We also realized that increasing outreach alone won't solve this problem, because the system rewards those who can build relationships over time. That understanding is what led us to design a solution focused on collaboration.
Our proposed solution is LiftLocal. LiftLocal is a city platform for visibility and collaboration. It connects local small businesses to relevant city contracts and to each other. At the core is an auto-updated local business directory that makes Berkeley-based business capacity visible. LiftLocal uses this information to proactively alert businesses of relevant opportunities. The directory also acts as the foundation for matching and collaboration across the platform. Together, this collaborate to compete approach helps expand participation in city contracting. The first problem we're solving is visibility. Many Berkeley-based businesses don't see city opportunities or realize they're eligible. LiftLocal addresses this by surfacing relevant RFPs to local businesses based on what they do. Businesses can browse opportunities here, but more importantly, LiftLocal also reaches out directly to match businesses, even those not yet registered as vendors. This expands the funnel rather than just optimizing for vendors already in the funnel. The second barrier is capacity. Many local businesses can't bid alone, but they can bid together. LiftLocal analyzes RFP requirements and identifies local businesses whose services and capacity complement each other. Platform then facilitates introductions for the partnerships and identifies what each business contributes. It also supports different collaboration models, whether that's a joint venture, subcontracting, or mentorship between experienced and first-time bidders. LiftLocal will roll out in 3 primary phases. First, pilot validation. We'll launch an MVP using existing public data, so that's business licenses, online web presence, and RFP postings, to test core workflows and gather feedback. Second, city integration. We'll partner with the city to integrate into existing systems. And third, replication. We'll expand across departments and adapt the model for other municipalities, positioning LiftLocal as a replicable civic tech solution. Each phase has a clear go or no-go signal. We plan to hold ourselves to these success metrics to help keep LiftLocal accountable to both the city and to small businesses. Ultimately, we hope this project will foster a more inclusive and diverse local economy, both here in Berkeley and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, LiftLocal. Take a pause while the judges jot some notes. And have you got any questions? Mayor Ishii.
Yes. Oh, should I use this mic or?
Okay.
Okay. Really interesting. Thank you very much. Appreciate you laying this all out. I know you mentioned how you want to help the small businesses join this by, I think it's here, taking existing public data. But I'm a little concerned that that might not be enough to reach the wide number of businesses that are here. Do you have any other solutions for that?
I think, for example, our data source is extremely important. So right now, in our platform, we plan to source from the business certificate data. And so for that data source, we know it's reliable. For a business to operate in Berkeley, it has to be updated. And so I think in addition to the data source, the platform can also source and scrape from other websites, especially if businesses do have an internet presence. And from that data source, you can create or craft specific messaging around like, hey, you are eligible. One of the pain points that we realized early on from small businesses is that they didn't even know that they were eligible. And so I come from the federal contracting space where if you are a key player in that space, you know how the game works. But for small businesses that's never been through this process, it can seem extremely difficult to even step into the door.
Yeah, it would be interesting also to have on here, if you're able to pull from businesses that don't even have business licenses, that they could also be informed that they need to get that and the proper documentation. Because I actually see that there could be a lot of other points of connection here to support small businesses.
To quickly add on to that, we were also planning to go into community groups, Slack channels, things where maybe non-English speakers might be more accessible, and using those community groups to also spread the word through other options for them to be eligible for city contracts.
Thank you for that. That's a really good clarifying point. I have two small questions just to follow up to the mayor. What about, I mean, when you think about a city like Berkeley and small businesses, there's probably some businesses that are not huge presence online, right? So making sure like they have access, you mentioned access to opportunities. So that's my question, is like, how do you make it inclusive so everyone can participate? And the second, just to go to your roadmap, your product roadmap, after pilot integration and replication, do you have a step in there to actually measure the impact? Before, as you scale, how are you going to measure it? Between each of these steps, how are you thinking about measuring it?
So on this slide, for each phase, we have concrete success metrics. So particularly for the replication phase, our success metric for that would be one is like prioritizing, like measuring the impact on women and diverse small businesses. And that was one goal that we had for the replication and expansion aspect. And then also to try to have 1 to 2 additional cities actually piloting this project.
Sorry, it just, for any small businesses in the city that may not have online presence,
Yeah, so,
just part of the inclusion.
So a part of the inclusion, so in addition to notifications through the dashboard, email notifications, and then also mail. Who doesn't love mail? Great thing about the business certificate database is that we have the address of their businesses in order to operate in Berkeley. And so thank you so much, City of Berkeley, for having such a wealth of data for our platform to sit on and to have reliable. Just a side point, a lot of these systems like eProcure, one of the pain points is that their information is very static. And so if a business goes in this system and tries to search for another business, it's a possibility that the business is out of business. And so it's important for us to have up-to-date information to keep people abreast of the upcoming RFPs down the pipeline.
Yeah, one quick question. So collaborate to compete is just such a nice way to think about what you're building here. Also, though, many of the newer businesses sort of, do they have the capacity to deliver, right? That sort of execution quality. And is there any way to kind of measure their ability to deliver over time? So we're kind of rating the providers over time.
So I think one of our interviews, especially with the City of Berkeley, Vincent, he described a process where business owners go in person to pitch their business and to deliver their core competencies in their history. And so it's really important for us to even the playing field where businesses get to upload their past work history in order for administrators to see it on the back end as well. Another pain point, Liz, I'm not sure if you're here or not, but we did take your suggestion to heart. Stephanie mentioned earlier that our platform has the capability of serving as a directory. And so for small jobs that doesn't necessarily need a procurement process, city administrators will be able to go into the site, look for those businesses and save and leave comments based on the history of the vendor that they decide to choose.
All right, let's hear it for LiftLocal. Let me just pause. The next team, come on up and reflect and note. If it blows me away that first of all, these projects are 1 week old. Right? They've been working on this for 1 week. And also, they didn't know each other a week ago, right? They met in this program. So anyway, think about this. The two winners that are going on to the Big Ideas Contest will now work together for a whole semester. This is just the beginning. All right. Next up, we've got OneDestination, housing access.
Thank you so much. A few weeks ago, an elderly citizen walked into the Berkeley Public Library looking for housing help. This is what they saw. Hundreds of brochures, guides, and listings. Everything was there, yet obviously nothing is clear. I'm Fatima Ismail, this is Iman Umair, and we have the privilege of standing in front of you and working on this housing project. That is our group right there, Claire Gontan and Vipassana Vista, and we work together to build OneDestination, taking scattered resources and turning them into one clear path.
When we spoke with stakeholders, we made sure to hear from both sides of the current system. We interviewed the people searching for housing and the people on the other end trying to provide it. From the residents' perspective, we heard stories of confusion, frustration, and exhaustion. From the staff perspective, we heard concerns about misdirected calls and not always knowing what program is available. We learned that the problem isn't that Berkeley doesn't have enough housing resources, it's that people just can't navigate them effectively. So we asked ourselves, what if all housing help started in one clear place? Introducing OneDestination, a unified housing hub that meets residents exactly where they are, with 3 simple, accessible key entry points: an ADA-compliant website, in-person support centers, and a dedicated helpline. No matter how someone enters the system, they leave with the same promise, that nobody in Berkeley will have to struggle with housing alone.
Let's walk through a demo. Meet B, our resident. She's been a longtime resident in Berkeley, and she just got a large rent increase. Obviously, this is very stressful for her.
Fatima, what should B do first?
Good question, Iman. She can access our website where she can interact with our chatbot, answer a few simple questions in terms of her housing resources and her housing issue, and following the white arrow on the infographic, she can get a personalized roadmap. What about if she's not tech savvy or wants in-person support?
Great question. Well, B could walk into any of our in-person departments, which will all be located on one singular map on our website and in any public building or any existing housing department, as shown through the green arrows right there. Or B can call our helpline, as shown through the blue arrows right there. But either way, she's connected to one housing agent, a certified, trained person who has a comprehensive understanding of Berkeley's entire housing system. Using our website, they will also create a personalized roadmap to help B every step of the way.
This is our roadmap for our prototype. So it's from 3 months to fully operational. And at fully operational, we are estimating that we will see a large reduction in preventable housing crises.
Around 2,000 people right now experience homelessness in Berkeley each year, and that's only the number of people that we can count. The OneDestination system aims to prevent housing crises like this before they happen and drive that number down to 0.
We aim for housing help to be as easy as just dialing 311 on your phone, and for Berkeley to become an example for other cities.
Now, how do we actually know this is gonna work? Let's take a look at Houston, LA, and Boston, who have centralized their housing resources into one platform. Houston has seen a 17% decrease in homelessness since implementing this.
Now, I want to take you back to the resident in the library. They saw hundreds of resources and felt completely alone. That moment of isolation is exactly what we're trying to end here. With OneDestination, they won't wonder where to start. They will know exactly where to go. Thank you so much.
All right, are you ready?
Can you go back to your slide that had the roadmap? I didn't get a chance to sort of read it all. Can you tell me a bit more about the kinds of housing resources or housing opportunities that you are offering through this? And also let me just say, I would argue that we have a lot of work to do still on providing additional housing resources. There definitely is not enough housing for everyone, but I do appreciate having a centralized system for accessing it. So get curious what kind of housing.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. So the main, I guess, resource and program that we were focusing on helping is the Health, Housing, and Community Services department. But we know that, like you said, there are so many other different resources, and that's kind of what we were targeting, is to be able to combine all of those into one. Also, to point out something else that you said, when we were doing our stakeholder interviews with nonprofits and with the staff, something that they did bring up is, yes, there's a problem of not knowing where to go, but also sometimes even if people do know where to go, they don't have access or there isn't enough to go around. And so our hope is to, by having one specific location, we can provide then that feedback and that data back to the staff and back to the city so that they know what is needed.
Yeah, the clutter of your initial image was wonderful. It scared me. Yeah, and no, it really is a great opening. I guess part of it, so one way that I think about navigability is sort of the value of all that the city does, which is an awful lot, equals all the things that they do, the programs, et cetera. Times is important. Navigability. And if we can increase navigability by 20%, we've just increased the value to our unhoused residents of that whole portfolio. And putting the first factor in that equation is expensive to build. And navigability, I think you're saying that's actually a very efficient way to invest. So could you also talk, though, about, you mentioned Houston and some other cities. Are there things that you learned from seeing another city or two already do this that you can clarify for us?
Yeah, for sure. So when we first started this a week ago, Snow gave us her presentation about other cities, and she referenced Oakland. They had a really good database where you could just go on their website and scroll, and it's almost centralized resources, but it's not really easily navigation for a lot of residents because you don't necessarily know what you need, what group you fall under, and things like that. So with our system, it kind of changes it up just a bit because you tell us what you think you need, and based off of your situation, we can tell you what you actually need.
My question is, if you can go back to the previous slide of the B resident, okay. What is your plan for, so I understand they can get, a resident can get services via website. And as part of, if you will, scalability, is it to hire housing agents? Like, because where is the physical touch point? I wasn't quite clear, as well as on the phone as well.
Definitely. So what OneDestination is, it's a website tool. So we have a helpline as part of it, and this is connecting residents or potential residents to current city staff members who can answer these phone calls. So it's like existing roles. For our in-person centers, that's another way to access this resource. We realize that some people might not have digital access, digital literacy, so it's a way of getting around that. And in addition, it's also using the current existing infrastructure. So in different civic buildings, there's already employees there, city employees, and this is something that could be a part of their training, something they could be onboarded and learn how to do. And this wouldn't require exactly new rules to be made, especially on the ground level, but it's using what's already there
and just making it easier for current employees to say, oh yeah, you need help with this? Well, I know how to do that, and I have a really easy tool that you can use as well.
And just to add to that, for our pilot, our plan would be to utilize student volunteers. So there's a lot of students at UC Berkeley who really want to make a difference. And so having those people be trained and then be able to man the phone lines as well as the in-person booths, and then have somebody in the city as staff to be able to kind of coordinate that.
All right, let's hear it for one. All right, let's the judges make some tallies. All right. One more pitch, and then the judges are going to go into deliberation. Deliberation indeed.